Hello and welcome to Bike Channel Kenya, and today we are going to do an in-depth look at the S1000. Everything you need to know, from the price to the insurance cost to the maintenance cost, and of course take it for a spin. Now before we go on, I want you to take a minute and below type what type of content you'd like to see more on this channel. Is it superbikes, is it onboards, dirt bikes, behind the scenes on the races, or whatever you fancy. Anyway, let's get back with the S1K. It was launched in 2009, and this was Bmw's first try at a superbike. Though they had the K series, which had the K1200 and the K1300, which were more of sport tourers anyway. Now, just like the Honda CB750, which was released in 1969, the S1000 caught everyone napping and instantly became something of a legend. It became a real race replica, which is what the double R stands for. Now imagine it is 2009, which was 12 years ago, and here comes a superbike which has a quick shifter, traction control, heated grips, ABS, and 193 horsepower. This was something the other manufacturers could only dream about. In fact, it wasn't until 2012 that the Yamaha R1 got traction control, and even more astonishingly, it wasn't until 2017 that the Suzuki GXR got one, so to say this bike was ahead of its time is an understatement. The Beamer has three generations, the first being from 09 to 2014, though it had a minor update in 2012, the second generation from 2015 to 2018, and now the current generation from 2019. Today, we'll be looking more at the second generation, which is the best looking in my opinion. Visually, you can distinguish the second generation from the first one by the round light, which was moved from the left to the right. The 2015 model also got an extra 5 brake horsepower, moving it to 200 brake horsepower from the previous 105. What made the S1000 popular when it was released was the ease of riding, which was made possible by the electronics. And in 2015, things just improved as it got electronic suspension, which calculates and adjusts itself according to the road surface every 400 milliseconds, believe it or not. Despite having 200 brake horsepower, this thing feels so rider friendly, and so let's talk about the electronics. It has traction control, which makes riding it feel like almost like a 600. BMW are known for the ABS system, and this one is no different. It has 5 riding modes, a rain mode, which reduces the horsepower to 170, which is a lot, of course, but it doesn't pick up immediately. When I put it in rain mode, I was twisting the throttle to almost half throttle and nothing was happening. In fact, for a moment, I thought I was riding at 250. Then we have the sport mode, which you get the full 200 brake horsepower, but the traction control kicks in early and the throttle response is much better than in rain mode, but still docile, in quotes. In race mode, you get the full 200 horsepower and the traction control kicks in later and the throttle response is instant. The fourth is the user mode, where you can tailor it according to your needs. For example, you can take the horsepower of the rain mode, the 170, and pair it with maybe the traction control of, let's say, the slick mode, and maybe the ABS of the rain mode, and whatever you fancy basically. The fifth and the final mode is the slick mode. And as the name suggests, it is best used when you have slick racing tires which have more grip. Now in slick mode, everything breaks loose because the ECU assumes you are in a track and you have slick tires. The traction control is set to 1. The ABS virtually doesn't kick in the front, and in the rear it is disabled so that you can back it in. The anti-wheelie will not kick in as long as the rear wheel has grip. And if you are brave enough, you can actually turn everything off. I tried it for a couple of minutes, and with the slightest twist of the throttle, in first or in second gear, I was doing power wheelies like there's no tomorrow. To my surprise, I even managed to spin the rear tire in third gear. just to be reminded that I was in a 200 brake horsepower motorbike, and the engineers back in Germany didn't put the electronics there for nothing. With the second generation, you get a quick shifter, but now it also comes with a down blipper. Though I found myself using the clutch to downshift before I got used to it. You also get cruise control, heated grips, launch control, pit limiter, and even it shows you how much you were leaning on your previous ride, which I managed to get to 50 degrees. But for argument's sake, I was on the road. I reckon on the track I can get to around 55 degrees, and if I have slick tires, I can go down to even 60 degrees. Though I think when a group of S1000 owners go on a ride on the twisties, that might be a recipe for disaster, since everyone will be leaning as much as they can so that they can show off to their mates at the next stop and get the bragging rights of who was leaning most. Coming to the chassis, the weight is so balanced, it feels like a 600, only that it is more powerful. When you get to the twisties and throw it around, it honestly feels like a 600. I don't know how the engineers managed to do that, though I think the electronic suspension, which is adjusting the damping and rebound every 400 milliseconds, helps a lot in that regard. Coming to the power, this feels more refined. Sometime back in 2017, I rode the old model, that is the first generation, and when I put it in race mode, it was brutal. But this 2015 model, I think because of the electronic suspension, feels more relaxed even at high speeds. I managed to get to 302 kilometers per hour, and though things were happening fast, the bike itself felt relaxed and stable. 0 to 100 will be done in under 3 seconds, and if you find the road, you can easily do 330 kilometers per hour depending on your weight and aerodynamics of that day, whether they are crosswinds or not. Cost. Now, since we mostly buy second-hand, the second generation will go for around 1 million to 1.4 million Kenyan shillings. And in my opinion, this is the generation you should be aiming at buying, because you get the down blipper, which the previous generation didn't have. You get the electronic suspension, cruise control, and basically you are getting 90% of the HP4 for a fraction of the price. Now, let's take a moment of silence for all HP4 owners who bought the HP4 in 2015, only for the 2015 S1000 to come around a few months later and find it is in fact 9% their bike for almost half the price. In fact, if you got the 2015 model with the premium DDC, that is dynamic damping control, the engineers say it was so much better than the HP4, and that's why they discontinued it. Now, most people say that Beamers are expensive to maintain, but they are just like any other 1000cc bike in my opinion. The service will be 3 liters, which is around 6,000 Kenyan shillings. An oil filter will set you back around 2,000 Kenyan shillings. The plugs will be around 8,000 shillings for the set of the 4, but this will do around 20,000 kilometers because they are iridium. So basically, the service will be around 7,500 Kenyan shillings. And since this is not a bike you'll be commuting daily with, those 5,000 kilometers may actually take 9 to 10 months or even a year. I've actually seen people do 200 kilometers on their bikes, which I fail to understand in a year. But back to the bike, a sticky road tire will set you back around 25,000 Kenyan shillings, but then again, they will last for around 8 to 10,000 kilometers. The insurance yearly will depend on the value of the bike. So let's imagine your bike is valued at 1.3 million Kenyan shillings. If you take the 3.5% of the value of the bike, which is what the insurance companies use to calculate your insurance premium, that will be around 45,000 for your insurance every year. The chain and sprocket will also set you back around 20,000 Kenyan shillings, but they will at least do 15,000 kilometers before they need replacing. And if you're honest, this is what any other 1000cc bike will cost you to run yearly, with maybe an exception of the insurance. You see, I didn't mention the fuel because with this, you won't be worrying about fuel. I mean, if you can afford a 1.3 million bike, fuel will be the least of your issues. But it does 15 kilometers to the liter in case you are curious. And that is V-Power. It is recommended you use V-Power unless it is an emergency and you can't get V-Power. Now, to avoid trouble with this bike, get a low mileage one, and one which has been cared for. Now, most bikes with high mileage are known to wear out the cam chain, especially at 35,000 kilometers going to 40. And if, for example, you buy one and it starts making the cam chain noise, just pack it and get a new one, which will be around 10,000 Kenyan shillings. Other than that, they are German, so they are well built. And even the cam chain I'm talking about, that will happen with any bikes. It is a wear and tear thing, so it is not an exception to the Beamers. So there you have it. Yes, it may be expensive to buy and also maintain, but it is a dream bike for most of the people. You just don't wake up one day and decide you want it. It is something you have dreamt about, looked at countless reviews about it on YouTube. So when you finally get one, you'll already know what you're getting yourself into. And if you are tall like me, it is the roomiest superbike out there. You know, German people are known to be big, unlike the Japanese. So that is it for this video. If you have more questions, leave them in the comment section below and I will answer every one of them. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button for more. See you on the next one. Ciao.